guys, welcome back to my channel, McNallie Money, home of all things stock, investment, and personal finance related. Now for today's video, we're going to be talking about a company that we've actually looked at in detail on this channel before. The company name is HITI, and they just announced some big news this week with plans to further expand into the United States. So I'm really pumped up about this. There's been a ton of news in this sector as of late, and I wanted to take you guys through the release and how this will impact the business model moving forward. Now before we get into it, please take a second to smash that like button. It really does help out the channel, and it helps get this content to other people like yourself who might find value. If you're not currently subscribed, take a second to do so, and let me know in the comment section below what you think of HITI, what you think of this acquisition, and if you're currently holding shares of this company. Now without further ado, let's roll the intro clip and get into today's video. Okay guys, so that's right. Today we're going to be talking about HITI. Now I've released a video, a deep dive on HITI on this channel in the past. So we're not going to talk in depth about their business model, but they had some huge news that came out just this week that I wanted to address and kind of give an update on the company. So it's really exciting right now in this MJ space, specifically in Canada here. There's so much news coming out, it seems like on a day-to-day or regular basis. So it really keeps me on my toes, and honestly, there's no shortage of video ideas for you guys. Now we've seen some similar activity from another company that I follow and invest in very heavily. So we're going to talk about that comparison in a second here, but I wanted to take you through the HITI news release first and then the implications of this big announcement on their business moving forward. So here you have HITI, ticker symbol HITI.V on the TSX Venture Exchange. It closed up 1 cent or 1.5% as of May 3rd. So Monday's close there. And that means that it settled at 67 cents Canadian. So you can see over the past 6 months, it has been on a fairly good run. It's all the way up from the mid 30s up to that mid 60 range. And we did see a lot of strength in this sector in early February. So it's pulled back a little bit from its 12-month high, but it is looking really good if you look at the 6 months overall. And based on Monday's close here, it's actually sitting at a market cap just under $430 million Canadian. So almost at that $500 million milestone, which is really exciting for this company. Now in terms of the big news that came out this week, this was actually announced yesterday morning, and this is the article here. So HITI has entered an agreement to buy 80% stake in the US-based CBD company called Fab CBD for just under $21 million US. Now they do have the option to buy the additional or remaining 20% as well within the next 3 years, but as of right now it's an 80% stake. Now before we get into the specifics of this HITI announcement, I wanted to bring up this article because this was very interesting, and I just released a video on the Valens company a couple weeks ago discussing their entrance into the US market through the acquisition of another CBD company named Green Roads. And I thought this was really interesting. In this video, I mentioned that I think this is going to be a common trend now, and a lot of Canadian companies are obviously looking for exposure south of the border, and CBD based companies are a great way to do that and really skirt or avoid a lot of the legal red tape and confusion that's currently going on in the United States. So this was really interesting. Now we're going to compare and contrast some of these numbers. So I wanted to mention these ones first. So Valens actually paid $40 million US for Green Roads, so just about double what HITI paid for Fab CBD. And in terms of revenue, Green Roads is also performing about double that of Fab CBD. So you can see here $40 million US acquisition price, which equates to 1.8 times or just about 2 times 2020 revenue, which implies that Green Roads produced about $20 million of revenue in 2020. And if we now jump over to the detailed press release from HITI, you can see Fab CBD generated just about $11 million US in 2020 in terms of top line revenue. So I thought that was interesting and worth bringing up as we move through this news release. Because the acquisition was so fresh and because they're so similar, I really wanted to give you guys a frame of reference in terms of the size and the price that High Tide paid for Fab CBD in relation to some of these other acquisitions in the news recently here in Canada. So in terms of the actual details here, I'll go through the bullet points and then we'll talk about each of them in a little bit more detail. So the acquisition is immediately going to boost High Tide's current US revenue run rate by approximately 60% to over $40 million Canadian. They call it a highly accretive transaction. They then call out Fab CBD's 2020 revenue, which we just talked about, and their EBITDA of $4.3 million US. And I'd say most importantly, both of these metrics have more than doubled in each of the past 2 years. So they're showing over 100% growth for the past 2 consecutive years on both their EBITDA and top line revenue, which is phenomenal. They have extremely strong margins, so 74% gross margin and 40% EBITDA margins in 2020. It's going to complement their existing e-commerce platforms, which is also in line with their retail strategy and strengths. Now we're going to talk about their overall e-commerce portfolio here towards the end of the slide, but High Tide has really made a point to try and go after the online side of things versus some of the brick and mortar retail opportunities. So that's going to be interesting to see. Now, I just released a video on Fire and Flower, and we talked about some of the differences between these two companies. Obviously, they're both highly focused on the retail landscape here in Canada. They both have plans to expand into the United States, but they're going about it a little bit differently. So we're going to talk about some of the differences in their brand strategy moving forward throughout the presentation here. And then the final point is what they refer to as meaningful synergies and opportunities to cross-sell their products, including Fab CBD products, on their existing CBD City, Grass City, and Smoke Cartel e-commerce platforms. So those are the 3 websites that High Tide already operates and that we're going to talk about later in the presentation. And then they also have the opportunity to bring Fab CBD products and that brand into Canada and the European Union. So again, very similar to what we saw with the Valens acquisition of Green Roads, but they're able to now sell their existing products in the States and the States products in Canada. Now, one caveat to that, obviously MJ is not federally legalized in the United States as of yet, but getting these platforms in place now and laying this foundation means that as soon as the federal government gives a green light, these Canadian operators can immediately start distributing their products south of the border. And that's exactly why I feel like these acquisitions are going to be a trend we see for a while now, because every one of these Canadian operators knows that they need to have a presence in the United States and they need to get ahead of this curve and lay the foundation for their growth now, because if they don't, they're going to get left behind and miss out on this massive market opportunity. Now, in terms of the details of the transaction, you can see High Tide will acquire 80% of Fab CBD, also known as Fab Nutrition, up front, and then they've got a 3-year option to acquire the remaining 20% of Fab CBD at any time they wish. Now, in terms of how the acquisition is comprised, it'll be made up of $8.1 million US worth of common shares of High Tide based on the average share price for the 10 consecutive trading days preceding the close of the transaction. And then the remaining $12.6 million US is going to be made up of cash on hand from High Tide. Now, similar to the Valens acquisition, Raj Grover, who's the president and CEO of High Tide, mentions that they met and interviewed with a ton of different companies south of the border that operated in the CBD space before they ultimately came to the decision on Fab CBD. They feel like the 2 companies' corporate culture really meshes together well, and they feel like this company stood out head and shoulders above a lot of the other operators and opportunities in this space because of their strong financial performance, strong margins, and growing customer base. And we're going to actually look at some of the details around Fab CBD right now. So here's a few highlights. So Fab CBD carries multiple product formulations, which we're going to look at on their website in a minute. They're exclusive to Fab CBD, and they're specifically manufactured by various contract manufacturers across the United States for this company. 100% of their sales are direct to consumer online, so they have no brick and mortar retail locations. And in 2020, they fulfilled approximately 124,000 orders from over 1 million unique site visitors. So obviously a ton of traffic on that website, and a lot of that traffic is actually converting into real purchases. And if we scroll up for a second, you can see the average order value on Fab CBD's website was just about $100 US, 91.90. So it's not like these people are going on and buying $5 or $10 products. These are sizable orders and they're meaningful customers that are continuing to purchase and come back over and over again from this e-commerce platform. And a specific example of that was actually on 420. So this is obviously a big day for the MJ community. Fab CBD generated over $160,000 US of sales on this single day. So in combination with HITI's other platforms, on a pro forma basis, the company overall had sales of nearly $1 million Canadian for that single day alone, which is honestly super impressive. Now the final point I'll add here is Mr. Delaney, or Josh Delaney, who's the CEO of Fab CBD. He's actually going to join the High Tide team and he's going to be the manager of this Fab CBD division. So that's great that they get to retain his talent, his know-how, his knowledge, and his expertise in relation to Fab CBD in the United States. So now we're going to jump over to the Fab CBD website and look at their team and some of their products. So this is their mission statement here. You can see the group of people that work for this company. This is them donating to the Make-A-Wish Foundation. You can see up top, they've also got a one tree planted offer where they actually go out and plant trees based on purchases made. So the company is obviously very focused on the environment and being a positive contributor to the community that they operate in. Their mission is simple. It's to create the best products on the market. They want to pioneer a new generation of people living in a preventative wellness state. So they believe CBD can actually improve the health and well-being of their customers. We plan on achieving this through the science, innovation, and premium supplementation that we're formulating here at Fab CBD, Fab Nutrition, and Fab Pets. So interestingly enough, they do actually have pet products, and that's exactly what we saw with Green Roads that I called out in my last video as well. As a company, we stand for doing good by people. With the help of our customers, we've been able to support some amazing causes. We recently partnered with Make-A-Wish, which you can see here, and completed 3 wishes for children in need this past holiday season. Every order that you place on this website plays a part in us creating the highest quality products while still giving back to our communities. So obviously that's great, and that's a big reason that High Tide wanted to partner with this company because of that strong culture that they've built. And it's honestly great to see if you're able to build a strong business, drive revenue, and help the community along the way, all the more power to you. And it really is a common trend these days where consumers want to give their money to companies that they can feel proud about and that are giving back to the communities they operate in. So here's a look at their actual product lineup. So you can see Fab CBD oil products are sourced from the finest hemp plants in all of Colorado, so grown in the United States. We believe in leading with premium CBD oil extracts, consistent results, and surprisingly personable service. So here's a few highlights that really differentiate Fab CBD and help them stand out from the competition. So lab tested hemp oil for that consistent experience, non-GMO, vegan blend, pesticide free, and botanical terpenes. So they really do focus on the healthy and natural side of the hemp or CBD market. And we're going to look at customer reviews in a second here, but I really honestly feel like that's why this company is so well liked and has such a strong following with their customer base. So on the left, you can see the different product categories. They've got everything from oils, gummies, cream, solve, dog treats, superfoods. So very similar product lineup to what we saw with Green Roads, including the dog treats or the pet alternatives, which I thought was really cool. Now you can see all of these products are branded under the Fab CBD logo. So I thought that's great and really helps build that brand recognition. It's not like they're just reselling other companies' products. So as we scroll down, you can see the different products. Here's their oils, topical creams, dog treats, superfoods, so on and so forth. So a very diverse and deep product lineup, which is great and easy to fold into the bigger High Tide brand portfolio. Now, in terms of the customer reviews, Fab CBD is very well regarded. They actually offer a 30-day money-back guarantee if you're not happy with any of their products. And you can see that everything's organically grown in the United States. So I think that's a huge selling feature for this company as well. As you scroll through, you can see these are very recent reviews from early May or late April. They're all from verified buyers. And you can see they have over 2,100 5-star reviews. So a lot of people are interacting with this brand. brand. They're very happy with the products they get, and that's obviously going to lead to repeat customers down the road. So now that we've taken a look at this most recent news release, we've talked about Fab CBD's platform and product offering, we've talked about the terms of the deal. I wanted to remind you guys of some other acquisition news that HITI released in late January. So HITI has really focused on this e-commerce opportunity in the United States. So just a few months ago here, HITI actually acquired Smoke Cartel, which is also a US-based e-commerce website that sells MJ accessories and CBD products. Now, in addition to Smoke Cartel, HITI already owns Grass City, which is another US online MJ retailer, as well as CBD City. So now this company, HITI, actually owns 4 different e-commerce platforms that operate in the United States. And that's why I'm so bullish on this company, because number one, I think e-commerce online sales are the way of the future. Obviously, the pandemic has expedited that. You guys have probably seen Amazon's earning reports recently, and they're absolutely destroying brick and mortar retail locations. I think consumers in every single industry are going to start shopping a lot more online because of the ease and flexibility this option offers. Secondly, they've got a ton of exposure to the United States, which is where I think a lot of the opportunity in the next couple of years is going to be in the MJ industry. And thirdly, they're well diversified. So it's not like they only own one website. Customers that have built relationships with each of these 4 different platforms over the past years are going to continue to shop there and spend their money there. And HITI is able to capitalize on all of those different platforms. So I think that's extremely powerful and really positions this company well for major expansion if and when the US does legalize on a federal scale. So to wrap things up here, you guys, I wanted to give you a little bit of a price prediction on HITI. So I am currently a shareholder of this company. I bought in very close to where the company is trading now, so in the mid 60-cent range. Now, I personally believe this company could be a multi-billion-dollar company within the next couple of years. They've got a very strong retail brick and mortar presence here in Canada. That's enabling them or allowing them to fund a lot of this acquisition activity south of the border. And I believe they're going to be in a prime spot to become one of the biggest online retailers in the United States of MJ and CBD products in the next 5 to 10 years. So I think the runway in front of this company is absolutely massive. And if we jump over to Simply Wall Street here, they actually estimate this company's fair value to be closer to $4 Canadian. So they believe they're trading right now at about an 82% discount or 82% under fair market value. And I would tend to agree. Now, if this company were to get up into the $3-4 range, which would be about 3 to 4 times their current share price, that would give them a market cap of about $1.5 to $2 billion. So I definitely see that as a realistic opportunity over the next 12, 18, 24 months. And as such, I feel really good investing my money here. Now, we just talked about Fire and Flower, and they're obviously a big competitor to this company. However, the one thing I feel like they're missing is the e-commerce presence in the United States. So for that reason, I feel better putting my money in HITI and letting it sit there, knowing that this company has aggressive growth plans ahead of them. So that's it for today's video, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you haven't already checked out my deep dive video on HITI, I would highly recommend you do so, especially if you're considering investing in this company. As always, please take a second to leave a comment in the section below. Let me know what you think of this video, HITI's business model moving forward, and if you currently own any shares. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, feel free to do so. And on a final note, make sure you smash that like button. It really does help my channel grow and helps get this content to other people like yourself who may find value. So that's it for today, guys. Make sure you have a great rest of your day, and thanks so much for watching.